Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
Michael Savage said Feinstein broke law and Senate ethics by withholding charges before hearings last week. Ask any lawyer about discovery rules. In terms of my Twitter responses, it was about 10 times higher than my normal responses. That's number one. The next one that I put up, well, the one that's up for 20 hours, is Kavanaugh accuser linked to the abortion pill manufacturer through her research. And many people are stupid. They don't even understand what that means. One ignoramus wrote, "This has nothing to do with the case being probed currently. Stay focused, Michael." And I say ignoramus, it means she's tied to the abortion industry. The abortionists make millions off dead babies and their body parts. You have to literally hand and spoon feed people. They can't put two and two together. They don't know how to make an egg. They don't know how to make an idea, nothing. And I say another thing to another person. They don't understand what I'm trying to say. Then the next one is, why did Senator Crime Scene withhold the bombshell, why did Senator Crime Scene withhold this bombshell during the exhaustive hearings? A dirty trick of the slimy left. That's, of course, a reference to what she did. Now, the next tweet is why the accuser's high school yearbook was scrubbed. That got a normal number of responses. The next one from yesterday's show was youths who commit real crimes are just children with undeveloped brains, according to Lib Sykes. But the 17-year-old Kavanaugh was a full-blown adult. That was too complicated for most people on Twitter. I then put the next one up, which was even more complicated, and so the response rate went down. I wrote this: according to the Liberal Innocence Project funded by Soros, about 75% of convicted felons are innocent owing to faulty recall and the memory of witnesses. Does this Soros-funded science apply to a makeout session 36 years ago? Very low response, because they didn't hear it from the so-called conservatives in the media, who can't think themselves, by the way. All they can do is, let me stop right there. I don't want to make even more enemies than I already have, but frankly, in 1998, I gave a very telling speech before the Commonwealth Club. I was the last conservative allowed to speak at the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco before it became a lockdown. There was a gentleman there who since died, who was a conservative. So my speech was, during the Clinton years, the following. And now pay careful attention, because a question is coming, children. My speech in 1998, when Clinton was in power and the press was in his pocket: beware the government media complex. It's a seminally important speech. Now, I want to ask you something, and it's important for you to understand this. What would have happened if Obama had had a host from CNN or MSNBC, a host from MSNBC up on the stage with him at a major rally, and the host was constantly licking his boots? What would we have said? Tell me what we have said. Tell me what we would have said had Obama had, let's say, Anderson Cooper on a stage with him at a speech. We would have said, foul ball. This is starting to sound like state-run television. How can you put up with this? Well, you know, what's fair is fair. Isn't this enough already with Wallbanger and the president? Isn't it becoming a little thin? Isn't it becoming a little embarrassing? Now, before you say it's sour grapes that I wish I were up there, you're half right. Maybe I wish I were up there, but I wouldn't have been up there. If I was invited, I wouldn't have been up there. You know, I would have lost my credibility. A host on the radio cannot become a mouthpiece for a politician. Occasionally, yes. Day in and day out, no. That's my opinion. And if I gave that speech in 1998, beware the government media complex. Well, beware the government media complex today. Isn't it embarrassing that the ousted head of Fox News, the man who was fired, Bill Not So Shiny Shine, is now the communications director for the president, and all we see all day long are messages about the Fox News hosts who are now in bed with the president. I find it embarrassing. And as a man who tries to be an independent, I have to call him as I see him, and I just did. And now on to the next topic. And by the way, it's Open Mic to Mike Friday. just as I am venting to my savage army out there. You can vent by calling 855-400-7282, 855-400-SAVAGE. I posted this morning, 28 minutes ago. I want to know what you think of it. Kavanaugh versus the Rad Fems. Want to see what they plan for men? Read Xenon. Ray Bradbury would like it. Now, Xenon, and the cover picture is a little childish picture I painted. I made that the cover. Xenon is a little novella or booklet that I published a while ago that's available on Kindle. And I'm going to read you 3 paragraphs if it's not too long for you to listen. I realize your mind is wandering already, and all you want to hear about is the latest dirt on the woman accusing Kavanaugh, but I'm not going there right now. So here's what Xenon is about. It's a science fiction novel about the future world state, an anti-utopian new world run by militant FSSs who castrate males at birth. Castrate males at birth? You mean they're trying to castrate Kavanaugh now? Yeah, because they missed them at birth. Assign them life mates who are transsexual, keeping the unclipped natural women for the state security forces, SSF, to assist the women in charge, WIC. State mind-bogglers, SMs, delete memories and secretly use state gas stores of the noble gases to remolecularize their minds, argon, freon, helium, krypton, neon, radon, and xenon. Envisioned and written in the early 1980s, this prophetic fantasy forecast is Michael Savage, a semi-serious alum of a nightmarish future. In the new world, there are no natural free people. This SF adventure is considered a masterpiece of wit and dark humor that accurately predicted the direction of the femme-dominated Stalinist states emerging in former Western democracies. Let me read the last line for those of you who are too dense to even follow what I just said. This science fiction adventure is considered a masterpiece of wit and dark humor that accurately predicted the direction of the femme-dominated Stalinist states emerging in former Western democracies. Now, I wrote Xenon in 1983, 84, 85, 86. I held it for publication until last year. I thought it was just not ready. Well, today it's more ready than ever because the Rad Fems are castrating Kavanaugh publicly. We know what they're doing here. They're castrating him no matter what comes out of these hearings next week. If the Rad Fem lawyer who represents the accuser does let her speak, Kavanaugh has already been tainted by the accusation. This is the new Stalinist state I was talking about. Now, if this is the world you want to live in, you can count me out. N'importe où dehors du monde is the way it was written in French for those of you who speak French. N'importe où, doesn't matter where, anywhere out of this world. That's how I feel today. Anywhere out of this world would be better than living in America today under the Rad Fems who have stolen academia, stolen the law, stolen the media, stolen the dialogue, stolen the monologue, and what is left for them to steal? Your freedom and your very maleness. That's the last few areas they've not yet gotten. But they will get to it eventually. They're crucifying Kavanaugh. They're crucifying him even though he was an adolescent, meaning not of age, when this alleged incident, even if it occurred, meaning he was 17, she was, 15, 14? The question to you is, and I'll repeat it again and again and again until you finally get it, the very left wing that says when a youth, they always call them youths or teens, you know who I'm talking about, right? The youths or teens. When the youths or teens actually commit a crime, they are excused from this crime because they're only youths or teens. And the cockamamie liberal lawyers from New York's NYU or Harvard come out and say, this poor youth, his brain is not fully developed. He's an adolescent. And the adolescent brain is not fully developed. So you can't hold him as an adult. He's a youth. And as you well know, the youth brain is not a fully developed brain. So doesn't that apply to Kavanaugh? Maybe he didn't have a fully developed brain. As you well know, boys 17 don't really have a brain. They're driven by something else. They're driven all the time by something else. That's not an excuse for rape, but there was no rape. The only one who said it was rape was Barbara Boxer. Somehow she has rape on her mind all the time. These people are crazy. These people are totally insane. And it's okay to let them be insane in their own little worlds, their own little university departments of insane studies, Department of Insane Studies, fine. But now they're taking it out onto the world stage and taking it out on a perfectly decent, middle-of-the-road man. And by the way, here's another one no one brought up in the media. Kavanaugh is a sitting judge, is he not? Isn't he? How come it never came up before now? When he came up as a federal judge, did anyone bring this up then? No, because it was not true. It's never been true. This entire thing was constructed in the fantasy world of Xenon simply to destroy a decent man. Kavanaugh versus the Radfems. You want to see what they plan for you next? Read Xenon. Ray Bradbury would like it. You can buy it on Kindle. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-26. Sunspots and age spots. Well, listen to Renee from Boulder, Colorado, raving about the brand new Genucel Sun Spot Corrector. She says, I love the Genucel Sun Spot Corrector. It is my go-to product every day. Watch your sunspots, age spots, and even red inflamed patches vanish right before your very eyes. And just like Renee, if you click or call right now, you'll get the Genucel Sun Spot Corrector absolutely free just for trying Genucel for bags and puffiness. Watch those stubborn sunspots vanish now before you get busy with the holidays and those bags and puffiness gone. And for results in less than 12 hours, the Genucel Immediate Effects is also yours free. You heard me, free again. Go to Genucel.com now or call 1-800-SKIN-891, 800-SKIN-891. When you order this week, you'll receive Chamonix's luxury microdermabrasion for instantly radiant baby soft skin. Order now and shipping is also free. Call 800-SKIN-891 or go to Genucel.com. You heard me right. That's 800-SKIN-891 or Genucel.com. I'm Michael Savage, and you're listening to Talk 1300 and 98.7. It is the Savage Nation. We're heading toward 1,000 years of darkness if this is not stopped. You know, we all expected when Hitler came back, he'd come back marching with his cohorts with the Nazi symbols and the German music. Hitler's back in many different forms. There are hydra heads of Hitler, meaning fascism, totalitarianism, Stalinism, Hitlerism, whatever you want to call it. Whichever ism you want to apply it to. It's the same form of control of people through lies and through intimidation tactics. And that's what we're witnessing now. Kavanaugh versus the Radfems. You think because a woman or a man has a law degree that they're honest? You think the law is the truth? You think the law isn't used to coerce people every single minute of the day? You think people's lives aren't ruined by lawyers who are lying in court and destroying them? Many of you listening to the show have had your lives turned upside down by the legal system, which works only for the powerful and the rich. It rarely works for anyone else. Trust me on that one. And so you say, well, Kavanaugh is a powerful rich man, but what is he facing? He's facing an impossible situation. I told you yesterday, it's the equivalent of, did you stop beating your wife? The old story, the old canard. How can you answer that one? Did you stop beating your wife, Mr. Kavanaugh? Well, no, I never never beat my wife. Oh, so you did stop beating your wife. And he says, no, I stopped. I just said I never beat my wife. Well, I asked you, did you stop beating your wife? He said, well, I never. So you're denying you beat your wife? That's what the lawyer for this accuser, this party girl from the rich high school there, this party, she was a party girl. They'll turn her into some vestal, like a perfect person. I'm not saying it's wrong to be a party girl, but that's what she was by all estimates. She worked in a bar, she drank a lot. Look at the stories that are coming out. That's not fair game to bring up her past? Oh, no, you can't bring up her past. Now, you can't bring up her past. Cannot say anything about her. Doesn't deny the fact. You can bring up her past. No, you can't in the court of law anymore. That's because the lowest form of humanity has taken over the courts. What do you think? Because a person wears a black robe? Back in the 90s, I said the stench from the bench is making me clench. It was considered humorous at the time. There's not enough Martinizing on the planet to get the stench out of the black robes in the courts of America. To make it very guttural for you, maybe you'll understand what I'm saying. What is a judge? Tell me what a judge is, any judge, top, bottom, in, out. It's a man or a woman who went to law school and became a conniving politician and became a judge. That's all. They angled to become a judge. It was a political job. Does it make them better than us? No. Some are great, some are mediocre, some are terrible, some are criminal. So why do we trust the legal system to determine the truth? As a very smart lawyer once said to me, the chasm between the truth and justice, there is no justice in the courts, is what he said, first of all, or don't look to the law for justice, is the way the lawyer put it to me. They're two different things. The law and justice are two different things. A lawyer said that to me. And the law, he said, is not designed to seek the truth. By the way, he said that to me as well. The law is not designed to seek or find the truth, by the way. So who are you to believe here? And if you believe this party girl, then what does that imply for everyone in the United States of America starting tomorrow? It means your son, your brother, your husband, your son-in-law, your brother-in-law. It means any male in America can be falsely accused by anyone at any time and have their lives ruined without any chance of getting even or straightening out their name for that matter. So the law needs to be changed. The law needs to be changed so that if a person makes an accusation against a person and they can't prove it, they pay the penalty that the person they accused would have paid. How's that? Would that work for you? You accuse someone of a crime or of an act, and you go to court, and you cannot prove definitively that they did that, then you suffer the same consequences as the person you accused, and you pay all court fees. That's the only way to end this Stalinist witch hunt. Today against Kavanaugh, tomorrow against your son. What if your son is in high school today? What if you have a normal, healthy son who likes to play sports and likes girls? What would you tell him? Not to go near a girl? Isn't that exactly what the red femmes want? To destroy their family, to destroy man and woman, to destroy the sex drive of a man towards a woman? Isn't that the object here? You haven't been able to add up the pieces. I've been adding them up for a very long time. And that's why I wrote Xenon a very long time ago. It's a science fiction novel, of course. But liberal men are most at risk of having their lives destroyed by this witch hunt. Listen to what I just said. The libertines amongst us are the ones most vulnerable to false accusations, most vulnerable to have their lives destroyed. At least that's one man's opinion. I'm open to other opinions. Not really.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. 855-400-SAVAGE.
You know, now that I've been sleeping on my Casper mattress, I pick it over every other mattress I've ever owned. It helps me get the best night's sleep, period. Once you try Casper, you're never going back. You're never going to love anything but Casper again. See, Casper's a high-quality mattress at an affordable price. You'll sleep cool, comfortably every night because they have unique combinations of foams which provide the right pressure relief and alignment. And, by the way, Casper comes right to your door for free in a small, how did they do that size box? They'll even pick it up from you if you don't love it, refund you everything from its engineering to its packaging to letting you try it in your own house for 100 nights. It's no wonder Casper has over 35,000 five-star reviews of all their products across Casper, Google, and Amazon. So put Casper to the test in your own home for 100 nights. Risk-free. Go to Casper.com. But you must use code SAVAGE to get that $50 towards the purchase of select mattresses. That's Casper.com, code SAVAGE, to get that $50 towards the purchase of select mattresses. Casper. Welcome back to the Savage Nation. Terrible times we're living in where a person's life can be destroyed by accusations that they cannot defend. The old rubric of have you stopped beating your wife is what poor Kavanaugh is facing. So joining us is someone who knows an awful lot about these things. He is the former, I guess, police commissioner of New York, NYPD. That's a big job. Bernard Kerik. He has a new novel, The Grave Above the Grave. And Bernard Kerik joins us on the Savage Nation. I don't see the red lights, but apparently he's there. Jim, there's no way to get the guest. Thank you. Superb. Yes,
Here.
Bernard Kerik, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Thank you, sir.
So when you were police commissioner, correct, in New York?
Yes, sir.
That's a big job. Now, years ago, could you have investigated such an accusation as that against Kavanaugh, of which the victim lacks key details and it happened 36 years before? Where would you begin?
Well, at this point, Mike, you wouldn't begin because she hasn't even filed a police report. She hasn't made a public report other than this anonymous letter, and nobody has any details on anything.
In all your, Mr. Carrick, in all your years in police work, did you ever come upon this kind of situation?
No. You know what? We didn't have these kind of situations until this political arena, this circus that's going on down in Washington now. We never had this before.
Okay, so let's go to the Mueller investigation. Do you think the Mueller investigation... Now, remember, we're talking with Bernard Kerik. This is not an ordinary patrolman. He was police commissioner in New York City. Huge job, very political job. Do you think the Mueller investigation has exceeded, it's gone beyond the boundaries of its mandate?
Yes, sir. Not only do I think it went beyond the boundaries, I think it shouldn't have never started in the first place. There is, in my opinion, Mike, there's no greater threat to our democracy than a government that weaponizes its own criminal justice system to politically target its own citizens and attempt to deprive them of their freedom. This is nuts.
All right, so look, Bernard Kerik, do you know Robert Mueller? Do you know?
Yes,
do you know him? I mean, come on. In your years in New York as police commissioner, you must have crossed paths with him. He was with the Southern District, correct?
Well, he was the FBI director during 9/11, and I was the police commissioner on and in the aftermath of September 11th.
Okay, so did you get to know him?
Yes, we worked together on a number of issues relating to the Twin Towers attack.
Now, so your new novel is called The Grave Above the Grave, which is about 9/11. What was Mueller's credibility? I mean, does it have credibility to you?
Well, he came out of the U.S. Attorney's Office. He was a former prosecutor. Look, he was an FBI director that, in my opinion, now this is my opinion, but I've known many of them, he was a mediocre kind of guy. A good FBI director, in my opinion, was Louis Freeh. I think he was far more respected, but he came from the rank and file of the FBI. Mueller did not. And I just think what he's doing right now is extremely political, and I know the people under him. Andrew Weissman, I know Andrew Weissman. Andrew Weissman is a political hack.
Well, I'll bring up the big one here, Rosenstein. Do you know him?
No, him. I know in passing. I don't know him.
Why are you laughing like we're having a drink somewhere in an Italian restaurant in Manhattan? Why did you laugh when I said the magic word Rosenstein?
Because I don't even know what he's doing. I don't know. It's he's useless. You got an attorney general that you can't find. You have another guy.
Mr. Peepers, the mole down there who never pops up out of the ground every once in a while.
Exactly.
Okay, so you knew Mueller when you were there, NYPD chief of the whole thing. Were you originally a patrolman?
Yes.
And you worked your way up through detective?
Well, I was in plain clothes. I was in narcotics. I was a detective. I left the department for a while. I took over Rikers Island. I ran Rikers Island, the largest jail system in the nation, for about 6 years. Came back to the department in 2000 as police commissioner, and then was in command of the 55,000 men and women of the NYPD on September 11th.
I'm not going to bring up the little scandal with the apartment. It really doesn't mean anything to me because it's a small political hit job what they did to you, right or wrong?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, and it was more so about my nanny. So
your nanny? What was the nanny involved?
Well, I paid cash to a domestic servant. That's what started it.
Oh my God. That's what they got you on.
Yeah.
So in many ways, you were subject to a witch hunt too. When you think about it.
No, well, listen. What they did to me, they are doing to the President of the United States, and his family, and his friends. They're annihilating him personally, financially, professionally. That's what they did to me. They've done it to others. They're doing it to Flynn. That's what happens, and that's.
Did you know? So you knew Mueller. Okay, you knew Mueller, and you told me what you thought of him. But speaking with Bernard Kerik, remember, this is not an ordinary interview in the sense that he really knows law enforcement in the biggest city in the country. Did you know Donald Trump at all personally?
Yes.
So on the Emmis, what do you think of him?
I think he's great. I think he's a genuine guy. I think he's a patriotic, super patriotic American, and I say that from knowing him 20 years when he was a business guy in New York. I knew him in the aftermath of 9/11 when he was to walk down in the hole, basically, to support the men and women down there. No cameras, no hoopla, just being down there to support everybody. Sent people from his own business down there to help with the pile. He's a genuine guy. He loves this country, and I think he's primarily concerned with two things: our national security and our economic status. And if these guys would leave him alone for 10 minutes, I think he'd be able to do a lot better than he's doing, and he's doing phenomenal with all the nonsense going on around him.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I backed him for the whole year before he became president. I was the first one in, or one of the first in, and I didn't equivocate. Everyone knows I backed him right up front. And every time I run into him or he invites me somewhere, which is far and few between, he says, "This guy got me elected. Without him, I wouldn't be president." He remembers his friends better than anyone I know. But Bernard Kerik, he also remembers his enemies, doesn't he?
He does. Listen, look. It's the way of business in the city. You know what I mean? You're not getting nothing done unless you work the field, which he did, and you have to know your enemies.
So he would, when he was building buildings, when Trump was building buildings in New York, he had to deal with some very tough people. All the union people, not a yard of cement got poured without him. Not a board was nailed. Not a wire was run. Not a pipe was run. Isn't that correct? Unless he could work deals out with them.
Listen, it's a hard place to work. And here's a guy that built some of the most magnificent buildings in New York. And I will tell you this, Mike. This guy did this stuff in less time than proposed, cheaper than proposed. Whether it was a city building or whether it was a roller skate rink in Central Park.
I remember that.
Donald Trump wanted to get done, got done.
Now, your novel is called The Grave Above the Grave, and it's about stopping the next 9/11. So move on to terrorism. We both know that by distracting the president with this endless persecution, it is weakening our resolve against the real enemies that are lurking in the shadows here in this country. Don't you feel that we're vulnerable because of this?
Well, I do, and I think it's even worse than that because it's almost like you have an enemy within in the new Democratic Party, this socialist movement that wants open borders, that wants sanctuary cities, that's providing illegals the ability to vote in their communities. This stuff is dangerous. Look, nobody knows what happens when the wrong people gets into this country better than I do. I lived through the worst terror attack in world history. I know what happens. And these guys, the Democratic Party, this socialist movement, is really, it's creating havoc on our national security. That's what the president's trying to combat.
Here's the thing that bothers me a little bit. We don't hear any more about Islamofascism. That was very important during the Obama years because we had one terrorist event after another. We've had a few under Donald Trump, but not many. Why has he been able to stop them before they strike, by and large?
You know why, Mike? Because he's given the ability to, he's basically given the nod to the law enforcement community to go do your job. On the military front, I would say this is the first time really since the Vietnam War where somebody was in the White House and said, hey, go do your job. I don't know your job in the military. You go do your job, and you have my permission to kill the enemy. That's what we need, and especially with this enemy, with the enemy that attacked us on 9/11, you need somebody in the White House that understands they're going to kill us or we're going to kill them. I'd rather be on the killing side.
Right. If it's kill or be killed. So, having said that, do you believe that there are still? I remember before, when Obama was leaving, the FBI director said that there was something like 1,000 terrorists in this country waiting to, they were hidden, hiding, waiting to strike.
That number's increased since then. That number
increased. It's worse now. So you're saying these Islamofascists are just waiting for a weak moment to hit us again?
There's probably close to 1,200 targets that the FBI and the FBI Joint Terrorist Task Forces and local and state authorities are trying to monitor throughout the entire country to make sure that they're not terrorists and that they're stopped from doing something in the future.
Why? Okay, now here's a really loaded question. We know with the ACLU, who I think is a terrorist front group, by the way, and they should be my opinion is they should be taken apart for aiding and abetting terrorism, but I'm not running anything. Why can't we preventatively detain people on these watch lists?
Well, I mean, based on our law, they have to commit a crime.
I know you have to have a body bag in order to do anything. So we're going to wait for 1,000 body bags before we stop them. We know none of the FBI has them on their radar. They know who they are, Bernard.
Yeah, they have to commit a crime. But there's another issue, Mike, and that is we're letting them into the country. I mean, the borders are wide open, and the borders are wide open, which is why Trump is saying, "Look, put the military on the borders until we get the wall." Until we're able to do something, we have to stop this influx of illegals, because the guys overseas, the bad guys, they know how to get in here. They know how to use our own failures against us, and that's what makes me insane to listen to some of these politicians that basically they're emboldening them, they're endorsing them. They're
immigration, Bernard. Immigration, and everyone listening to you're listening to Michael with Bernard Kerik about his new novel, The Grave Above the Grave. Former NYPD police commissioner. Article came out from Breitbart. Immigration to U.S. from third world Islamic nations skyrockets since 2010, and they list it by nation. They're pouring over our borders because of enablers like the Democrats who are attacking Kavanaugh. The very same people attacking Kavanaugh are attacking our national security apparatus. I'll be right back. Be here.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Take 1 atom of nitrogen and bond it with 1 atom of oxygen. Boom, you just created nitric oxide, a miracle molecule your own body makes that fuels your cardiovascular health, keeping you vibrant. But as we all age, our bodies need help generating more natural nitric oxide. Super Beets by Human has harnessed the power of nutrient-enriched beets and created a superfood that helps your body make more nitric oxide on its own. The core philosophy of Human is to develop heart-healthy products for your body. 1 teaspoon of Super Beets daily tends to support your cardiovascular health and blood pressure levels, giving you natural energy without the need of a quick caffeine kick or sugar high. We're talking real, healthful, natural energy. So call 800-481-0504 or go to SavageLovesBeets.com and find out how you can get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets and free shipping with your first purchase. I want you to feel the 1 + 1 = boom effect of Super Beets. Just call 800-481-0504 or SavageLovesBeets.com. Let me ask you something. Did you ever take your car in for an oil change and get hit with a huge repair bill? Well, it's happened to everybody at some point in their life. So that's why I say you should get extended vehicle protection from CarShield, and you won't worry so much about it. And if your car breaks down after the manufacturer's warranty expires, you could be out of pocket those big thousands. And I don't have to tell you what it costs today. That's why you should go to CarShield. It's as simple as that. I mean, you go to CarShield, what does that mean? You can save yourself thousands in future car repairs, get covered by the ultimate and extended vehicle protection simply by calling 800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE. Or visit CarShield.com, again, code SAVAGE, and you will save 10%. That's 1-800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE, or carshield.com, code SAVAGE. A deductible may apply. They make it very easy to fix your car for a covered repair. You can pick your own mechanic, or you have the dealership do the work, your choice. They also give you 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental car while yours is being fixed for free. Just simply call 1-800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE, or go to carshield.com, code SAVAGE. I want to go back to our guest, former New York Police Department Commissioner Bernard Kerik, with his new novel, The Grave Above the Grave. Bernard, what is this book about? Bernard, what is the book about? What is your novel about?
It's a fiction. I've had two bios before this. This is a fiction about a modern day, present day New York City police commissioner that gets involved in a terrorist attack on New York, but he was also in the police department 17 years ago during 9/11, and he lost his wife during that time. So now we bring it modern day, we bring it now, and throughout the book, a series of attacks that's peppered in that I think helps readers understand what the threats are that we face. People ask me, do you think we could sustain another 9/11, meaning 4 planes into buildings? No, I don't think we'll have another one of those. But I do think there's going to be a number of attacks in this country in the future, and I outline a series of events in my mind what could happen and how the NYPD and the FBI deals with it.
Bernard Kerik's novel is The Grave Above the Grave. Now, Bernard, I have one last question. Can you get me into Ray Al's restaurant?
Anytime you want to go to Venice, you let me know. We can get in.
I know you can get in. Was it like 8 seats in this restaurant? Celebrities can't get in there. I once asked my publisher, who publishes their cookbook, even they couldn't get into the restaurant. The publisher couldn't get in. Would you believe it?
We'll get you into Rayo's. I will.
Are the meatballs better than a normal meatball?
Yes. Yes.
See, you're very succinct. We could talk a lot about a lot of things. I'm sure we'd have a great couple of bottles, well, like a bottle of wine anyway. Bernard Kerik, I wish you the best of luck with your book, The Grave Above the Grave. And to the listeners who've been listening, I'll be back very shortly to my savage army of volunteers. In the next hour, we're going to talk about childhood imagination, events in childhood. There's a phenomenon called imagination inflation, where if you imagine a childhood event occurred, it actually inflates confidence that actually did occur. So how in the world can this accuser expect the world to believe that what she says happened actually happened 36 years ago when there is no evidence? There is no purple dress, is there?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855.
Boxer insisting that he raped her. Barbara Boxer actually said, even though she wasn't there, she knows for a fact that he's a rapist. Then you have this guy, Shifty Schiff, saying the GOP is okay with putting someone who attempted rape on the Supreme Court. This, again, no trial. I'm going to ask anyone out there who's listening to this show if you think this is the kind of country you want to live in. Or do you want to live in a country where you can say a man committed rape when there's no evidence he did or didn't, but they've already rushed to judgment? Now, Shifty Schiff should know better, but Shifty Schiff is a Democrat, and Shifty Schiff has been calling for the impeachment of Trump for a long time now. I would say if there's any woman out there who knows Schiff from his years in high school or Shifty Schiff from his years in college, would you ever say a thing like that about Schiff, that he did a thing like that? Well, I don't know. I have a Woody Allen quote for you that I've always loved, where he says, I feel that life is divided into the horrible and the miserable. That's the two categories of his life. The horrible are like, I don't know, terminal cases, and blind people crippled. He says, I don't know how they get through life. It's amazing to me. And the miserable is everyone else. So you should be thankful that you're miserable, because that's very lucky to be miserable. Now, if Donald Trump said that, I would think it would be funny. Woody Allen's saying it, I don't think it's funny, because nothing that Woody Allen does is funny as far as I'm concerned. Now we have a montage of Democrats, how any woman listening to this show who has, forget a husband, how about a brother? How about a cousin? How about a nephew, a little nephew, an innocent little 7-year-old boy? How could you ever vote for anyone who's already calling Kavanaugh a rapist when the man hasn't had a trial? Listen to this montage of filthy, sick Democrats jumping to conclusions without a trial, calling Mr. Kavanaugh a rapist. I want you to listen to 04.
I believe Dr. Blasey Ford because she's telling the truth, and you know it by her story.
That Kavanaugh denies being at the party to begin with and says his accuser might have mistaken him for someone else. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I've heard, many predators say and refute allegations against them. I think what we need...
As I said, I believe Professor Ford. I think she's credible, and I think when the investigation is finished and when she testifies and Judge Kavanaugh testifies, I think a majority of senators will find her credible.
She told her husband this is a trauma she's been dealing with her whole life. She doesn't want to be in a bedroom that doesn't have two doors.
And it's going to be about listening to what each party has to say, but I believe her.
Do you believe her story?
Well, I can tell you it really does have a ring of truth to it. I am skeptical of polygraphs, but for those who believe them, she has passed a polygraph test.
I believe Dr. Ford, as I refer to her, because she makes a very credible case.
People knew that about her a long time ago. She told a friend a year ago. She told a reporter before Dr. Kavanaugh was ever named.
By the way, I believe Dr. Ford, the survivor. There's every reason to disbelieve Judge Kavanaugh after his evasive and seemingly misleading responses.
Shut up. Okay, I had enough of these people. This is what we mean by fascism. This occurred in the Soviet Union. This occurred in Hitler's Germany, where all you had to do was accuse someone and they were guilty. Now, you heard the voices of the Soviets of our day. You just heard the voices of Schumer. Some of them you recognize. That slimy thing, Blumenthal. The guy sounds like a snake with a human head. Schumer saying, I believe her, no trial. Schumer, what do you have in your background that you're hiding? What about your ties to Wall Street? What if someone accused you of doing surreptitious things? Would you say that's fair without a trial? You know, these people are the lowest of the low. But you know how I feel about them. And by the way, don't mistake me for a doctrinaire Republican, because I am not. I'm an independent, number one. But number two, how can you, if you have a son, ever vote for a Democrat who might take your son's life away from him based upon some girl in a playground who says he did this or he did that without a trial? We are moving into not dangerous territory. We've been in dangerous territory for a very long time. I would say since Barbara Boxer went into the Senate, we were in dangerous territory. Since the sneaky Queen of Hearts, Dianne Feinstein, went into the Senate, we've been in very dangerous places. But now it has reached a crescendo that unless voices like mine, first of all, speak out, and second of all, demand that they stop accusing people falsely, number one, but until there is a trial, they shut their big mouths because they're destroying not only him, but his wife and his children. Do you know what they're doing to Kavanaugh's children? Do you know what Boxer and Schumer and Blumenthal have just done to Kavanaugh's children? Now, remember this. Kavanaugh is not an unknown individual. Kavanaugh is a sitting federal judge. He's been through vetting every step of the way before he became a judge. Do you understand that? This is completely invented. It's completely made up. As far as I am concerned, it is a crime being committed against this man. What do you think about this? Now, I'm glad that Trump finally came out when he said, I don't think you can delay it any longer. I want you to listen to clip one. This is Donald Trump last night.
I think it's a very sad situation. He's an outstanding person. And frankly, Sean, just 6 years ago, I mean, you could also say, when did this all happen? What's going on? To take
I can't
a
listen
man
to this, Terry. It sounds like a bowling alley or a football game. I can't. I don't go to bowling alleys or football games, so I have to cut it off. We now have Shifty Schiff, saying that he's a rapist. We have Biden, who sounds crazier by the day. I thought Biden was always stupid. I didn't know he was this crazy. Biden now asks, if you were in the movie Deliverance, tied to a tree, about to be raped by a man, would you come forward? I mean, this is totally whack. This guy's a real wackadoodle. Listen to 05. This is Biden.
It's important that people understand, and I think people do now, understand how hard it is to come forward. And I always say to men, I say, why so hard? How about if you've been abused? You see the movie Deliverance? How about if you were the guy strapped to the tree? Would you come forward? Would you want to relive that?
Why would he bring up being strapped to a tree in Deliverance? Did something happen to Biden that we don't know? If so, we should have compassion for him. But, okay, now strapped to a tree now. Now strapped to a tree now, about to be raped by a hillbilly cracker. That's what happened now. I'll tell you what I think should happen. I think the Republicans should have held the hearings today and taken the vote. They held the hearings. They should have taken the vote already. I'm going to say something else. The longer they let this mean-faced, clipped-haired lawyer, Katz, delay the hearing for this woman, the more it turns against Kavanaugh. I know something about public opinion. I've been in the business for a quarter of a century. The Republicans should not let this mean-faced, clipped-haired lawyer, Katz, who has one of the worst track records of honesty, as far as I could tell, in the history of the legal profession, delay until eventually the shadow of doubt becomes so great that Kavanaugh is ruined before this woman comes forward. And you know what's coming. They've got semi-trucks filled with tissues for the gallery. The weeping, the crying, the glasses of water that will be brought up. Do you need a break? Do you need some safe space? You will see them rushing up with water as she breaks down repeatedly. This will be one of the most hysterically absurd hearings you could ever imagine. Now, why did her lawyer set terms such as that? She refuses to be in the same room with Kavanaugh. I thought one of the precepts of our law is that the accused is permitted to face the accuser. You know, even in a mafia trial, if you've watched them in movies, they have to sit there in a courtroom and face their accuser. And the accused and the accusers are in the same courtroom. Who the heck gave this low-life lawyer, Katz, the right to say that her client will not be in the same room with the man that she's accusing? Tell me where this came from. And what is it that the accuser doesn't want to face in Kavanaugh? Is it that she knows she's lying from the bottom of her feet and she can't face him because she knows she's destroying him with these accusations? I do not trust one iota of this story. That's how I feel right now. And the Republicans have to stop listening to that timid old man, Grassley, and go ahead and hold a trial already, whatever it's going to be, and get it over with, and take the vote. The longer they wait, the longer they let the lying left control the dialogue, the more likely Kavanaugh will be voted down, because they're going to get one or two of them who are going to cave in. You'll get Collins caving in. You'll get the other wobblers, the new McCains, are going to cave in, and that's going to be the end of Kavanaugh. And that's what they want, because once that happens, they won. And the reason they will have won is because every estimate says the Republicans are going to lose seats come November because of the mass hysteria that we're going through. And once they do, that's the end of any appointment to the Supreme Court. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company... So you got this shifty Schiff calling him a rapist. You got Boxer calling him a rapist. You got Biden comparing it to Deliverance being strapped to a tree and raped by a hillbilly. Now, here's something that I haven't seen or heard in the media from all the geniuses. Kavanaugh is not an unknown quantity. Kavanaugh is a federal district judge. Is that correct? He was appointed by George Bush. However, he had to go through confirmation hearings. How come Dr. Chrysler there didn't come forward with her accusations then? Where was Dr. Chrysler when he was going through the hearings to become a district judge? Where was she? The doctor, Dr. Ford, the great psychologist. All of a sudden, the memory was jogged now that he's going on the Supreme Court. She had nothing to say when he was going up for the district judgeship. Where was Dr. Chrysler at that time? She was busy doing what, partying somewhere in Georgetown? The whole thing stinks from high to high heaven. The whole thing stinks, top to bottom. The whole thing's made up by these rat Democrat socialists, and they got to be stood up to. And you can't go for this crap. Oh, she's a woman. Don't say a word. I'm sick of it. You're telling me because she's a woman, you have to believe her? Every woman on earth is believable. Every woman on earth is better than every man. Where'd this come from? Women are capable of the same horrors that men are capable of. Do I have to give you historical figures? So stop with this putting the woman on a pedestal. I thought we were past that. I thought we didn't objectify women and put them on pedestals. Remember, there used to be a saying, "Your better half," when you were introduced to a social gathering. Your better half. The woman was supposed to be kinder and gentler than a man. Well, that went out the window with the ascent of Dianne Feinstein to the U.S. Senate. When she appeared in the Senate, that was the end of that idea, that they were kinder and gentler and more honest than men. Women are just the same as we are. We've learned that. If we learn nothing, we've learned that. Haven't we? Where was Dr. Chrysler when Brett Kavanaugh came up for hearings to be a U.S. district judge, how come she didn't come with the story about she was dying from a rape story from 26 years ago? At that time, it would have been 15 years before. Her memory would have even been fresher when you think about it. When was he appointed, Jim? Look it up. Let's say he was appointed to the district judgeship a number of years ago. Wouldn't the Dr. Chrysler's memory have been fresher then from the trauma of being thrown on a bed or whatever it is she said he did to her? What year? 2003. 15 years ago. So 15 years ago, he came up for hearings. Where was Dr. Chrysler then? I didn't hear from Dr. Chrysler in 2003. I was on the radio. No one ever heard of Kavanaugh. How come the injured lady didn't come forward in 2003? Her memory wasn't jogged at that point? It was blacked out? It was a repressed memory? It was closer to the time of the incident if the incident occurred, right? So I don't believe one word of this woman's story. And the biggest giveaway to me was the fact that she will not face the man she's trying to destroy when she does appear next week. According to a rabid lawyer, she refuses to sit in the same room with Kavanaugh. First of all, that's not her option. Who gave her the right to dictate the terms of this event? Why is the dumb, stupid, check pants Republicans, why? Look at Grassley. The guy can hardly find a chair up there to sit on. He reaches for a gavel and he gets a glass of water. He reaches for a piece of paper and he gets a sandwich. The reason this is happening is because we have check pants country club Republicans. We don't have any fighters up there. None. If there are any, they're certainly not on that committee. So I wouldn't let Ms. Katz, the lawyer, dictate the terms of Dr. Chrysler appearing. I would say no. If she wants to appear, here are the terms and here's the day. And if not, you know what? Take a walk. We're going to hold a vote anyway. That's all. We don't care what anyone thinks. We had enough of this charade. Everyone knows she's making this stuff up. And moreover, I'm going to say it again until you finally hear me. The childhood memories are very fuzzy. They're very fuzzy. Every scientific study will prove it, as you're going to find out in the next segment on this show, because we have a world expert on this subject, Dr. Loftus, professor of psychological sciences, who is going to talk about childhood memory. She's at a real university. Unlike Palo Alto University, she's at a real one called UC Irvine. And she's going to talk about the imperfections of human memory, especially that of children. And you're going to find out that there is no way that we can determine if this actually occurred, this alleged incident, number one. And number two, why did this Dr. Ford not come forward with her accusations when Brett Kavanaugh went through hearings to become a U.S. district judge? Has anyone asked that yet? All of the commentators in the media? I'm sure you'll hear it tonight on Fox News when my student picks this up on the shortwave radio that he has attached to his fillings, so he can do a more detailed show tonight. The fact of the matter is, this is a very serious time we're living in. We cannot give an inch to these vicious, low-life, criminal Stalinists.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
All right, in a few seconds, a few minutes, we're going to speak with an expert on memory, Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, prof of psychological sciences at a real university, not Palo Alto University. It's at UC Irvine. And she will discuss the malleability of human memory. But before we do that, I've got to go back to a key point that I have made today, that any objective individual listening to this show, even the most skeptical savage hater out there, has to listen carefully. Kavanaugh was first nominated to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit on July 25, 2003. Are you listening carefully? Kavanaugh's nomination was stalled in the Senate for nearly 3 years. Senator Dick Durbin, the same questionable Turban Durbin, attacked him, even though the American Bar Association called Kavanaugh well qualified. Take a guess who was against him. None other than Ed Asner in the asinine People for the American Way tried to block Kavanaugh then. Did you hear what I just said? There were hearings. Where was Dr. Ford then? How come she didn't come up with her big story about being molested or whatever? So what happened? After 3 years of blocking Kavanaugh, most particularly that wonderful character, Dick Durbin, Turbin Durbin, who accused our Marines of being Nazis, the U.S. Senate Committee on the Judiciary recommended confirmation of Kavanaugh on a party line vote of 10-8, May 11, 2006, and Kavanaugh was then confirmed on May 26, 2006, by a vote of 57-36. The very same lying vermin who did it to him then are doing it to him again. The people who hate America, the people who hate our Marines, the people who hate our military, the people who hate men, the people who hate the American way, the very same crowd is now after him again. And this time they're using rape. And so I ask you again, I don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican, and if you have a son, a brother, a husband, a nephew, do you want them to face a life where anyone could say anything about them and there's no trial? How could you want that? Now, we're going to talk about imagination inflation, imagining a childhood event, and what it actually does with regards to you actually thinking it occurred, with an expert. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus joins us now on the Savage Nation. Dr. Loftus, I'm not here to even ask you what your politics are. They're irrelevant. From a scientific point of view, how firm are childhood memories 30 years later?
Well, there is obviously a lot of decay in memory over a 30-year period, and there are cases where people have remembered things that didn't happen. But what I think is like a bigger question in this case is, I'm willing to grant that even if this did happen to Dr. Ford, which it may well have, and even I myself had, a not that different experience when I was 15 years old, but still, we need to ask who actually did it. And so I have been wondering for the last number of days, when did Dr. Ford actually attach the name Brett Kavanaugh to her recollection of this episode?
Well, as I said a few minutes ago, he did go through a hearing when he was appointed to the U.S. District Court, and she didn't appear then. Why all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, maybe she was living in a different part of the country, and maybe she wasn't really that aware of the judicial hearings. They certainly don't get the kind of attention that the hearings do nationally when they're for the Supreme Court.
Well, that's a good point, but it was in the District of Columbia, by the way. It wasn't in another part of the country from where she lives, and that I know of. Maybe she wasn't living there, but there was a hearing. You would have thought that if she had been molested by him, she would have said something. Somebody would have called her up and said, well, do you know that evil guy did it? But speaking of memory, you're an expert on memory. How fluid are the memories of children many years later?
Well, memory is it decays over time, and the older it is, the more susceptible it becomes to post-event contamination. But I still wouldn't give up on the idea that an investigation could conceivably reveal that this is more like a stranger identification that she is making, 30 years later, and that you could even grant that she had a very unpleasant experience. But that she might not be identifying the right person.
Well, Doctor, why would you say that she might not be? What leads you to even suggest that?
The reason I say that is because I have been studying wrongful convictions for many, many years. I've been, analyzing, for example, the wrongful convictions in the Innocence Project database, where the DNA testing has proven that more than 350 individuals who spent 10 years, 15 years, 20 years in prison for crimes they didn't do, including rapes, and it ends up DNA shows they're actually innocent. So how did that happen? The major...
So wait, what you're arguing is very interesting. You're saying the Innocence Project tries to say that a lot of people are falsely accused and falsely imprisoned. Turn out that they are, but shouldn't the same rules you're saying apply in this case, is more or less what you're saying.
The real point I wanted to make is the major cause of wrongful convictions is faulty eyewitness identification.
But how could Dr. Ford prove that Kavanaugh rolled on a bed with her when she was 15 and he was 17? How could she, unless there was some forensic evidence, how could she prove that?
I mean, she's going to have a tough time. I think she's going to have a tough time proving it. I mean, unless somebody comes forward and maybe says that she told them at the time and she said his name at the time and she knew him at the time. But we don't know these things without some further investigation.
Well, we don't know of a purple dress, so to speak, without trying to be vulgar. I mean, there's no forensic evidence of that kind.
Wasn't it a blue dress?
You got a good memory there.
Okay.
Dr. Loftus, your memory didn't fail you there. And I wasn't just testing you. I thought it was a purple dress because I'm thinking of the scarlet letter. But let's put the color aside. The color of this is rather shady as far as I am concerned, because she never came forward before. She said it popped up in her head when she was in couples therapy with her husband because their relationship went on the rocks a little bit, and this all of a sudden came up. Does that ring true to you?
It rings true to me that she could have been in marital therapy and she could have been having certain problems, and the therapist might have asked some questions about childhood trauma, and that caused her to mention this episode. I don't know. I don't think we know whether in that initial couples therapy that happened in 2012, whether she mentioned the name Brett Kavanaugh.
You keep saying it could be you're saying an incident such as this could have occurred, but it may not have been Kavanaugh. Now, you are an author, along with Gary, Manning, and Sherman, of this great article, which I quoted yesterday from the Psychonomic Bulletin and Review of June 1996, Volume 3, Issue 2. The title is very telling: Imagination Inflation. Imagining a childhood event inflates confidence that it occurred. Could you, in layman's language, explain that?
What we did in that work, which is now, of course, more than a decade old, but there have been many other studies that show a similar thing and followed it up, is that if you get people to imagine that they had certain experiences as a child, if you lead them through an imagination exercise, you can increase the chances that they will come to believe and even remember that they actually had those experiences. And we labeled that phenomenon imagination inflation.
It's a great term, by the way, and I think it is something people should think about. Remember years ago the McMartin School accusations that destroyed lives? Were you at all familiar with any of that?
Oh, well, I was a consultant for the defense in that case back in the 80s, yes.
And it comes to me because I lived through that as an American citizen. I was shocked at the story of magic rooms underneath the schools where the teachers raped them. Was that whole thing invented, Doctor?
Well, we believe that it was the work of some bad questioning on the part of therapist-like people who took a hold of those kids and through the whole questioning process got quite a few of them to create these stories of things that almost certainly never happened.
But lives were ruined nevertheless, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Ray Buckey was, first arrested in 1983. He and his, relatives and other teachers went through years of misery. He, in particular, and his mother, I think, went through 5 years because there was more than one trial. The state of California spent gobs and gobs and gobs of money prosecuting this ridiculous case, and money that could have been used for something much more useful.
McMartin, the McMartin accusations, that was a witch hunt that turned out to be false. I'm thinking of another case, and it's not directly related to your expertise in memory. Tawana Brawley accused the Detective Pagonis of raping her, smearing her with feces. She got Al Sharpton with a bullhorn to confirm it. It turned out she lied, and she even said she lied. And yet McManus's life was ruined, and other people's lives were ruined. She did not spend one day in prison. I mean, what I'm worried about here is the climate of accusation per se is enough to destroy a person's life.
Well, and, I'm seeing that in lots of other situations as well. The campus sexual assault cases. I don't know if you're aware, there are probably at least 300 cases of male students suing their their former universities for wrongful punishment.
Wow.
And we probably haven't even begun to see the beginning of the wrongful term.
Oh, you mean where boys were accused of date rape or rape, and then and they were thrown out of school, lives ruined, careers ruined, and then it turns out that they found out it was fake?
Well, that's why they're now suing. Yes.
And so you're a witness for the men who were falsely accused?
I'm working on a number of these cases. Yes, and of course, about the Duke lacrosse case, but these are. I mean, that was a situation where these poor students were accused of raping somebody. In many of the campus sexual assault cases, there is a consensual connection that develops, and then somebody regrets it later, and it's usually the male that gets expelled.
Well, I wonder if Dr. Ford regrets it 36 years later. We'll have to wait and see when the circus begins next week.
Again, I think I'm willing to give her the benefit. I mean, particularly since I went through a similar experience at the age of 15, but I couldn't tell you who the boys were.
Interesting.
I don't know if they ever became famous or who they were.
Well, we'll let it go at that. We don't want to name names here. Dr. Elizabeth F. Loftus, Loftus, thank you so much for spending the time with us today on this radio show. Imagination inflation. Can you imagine that? Now, before I take another break, the time is speeding because the kind of day that we're doing today is so unique in terms of getting into the actual, thinking about this thing in a more detailed way. Let's not leave the subject. We heard about fake rape cases in college, and that's ruined boys' lives, and now they're suing the colleges now for ruining them. What about Tawana Brawley? I don't want to leave that one go. It's very similar in many ways. You had Tawana Brawley, an African-American woman, saying that a white detective and others raped her and smeared her with feces and left her in the street. She got that mad rat, Al Sharpton, with a bullhorn, screaming that she had been raped by a white man. And then she recanted because there was no evidence to prove it. But the damage had been done. And what was Al Sharpton's punishment? A job on MSNBC and a consultant to Barack Hussein Obama. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Cyber criminals can attack your laptop, tablet, or smartphone without warning, without you even knowing. Or they can steal your identity, and you may not realize it until it's too late. And that's why LifeLock Identity Theft Protection now includes the power of Norton Security to help protect your identity on devices. I have both. LifeLock uses proprietary technology to help detect a range of threats to your identity. How about your personal info for sale on the dark web? Well, Norton Security protects against online threats like ransomware or malware. And if there's a problem, LifeLock with Norton has agents who will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or cybercrime or monitor transactions at all businesses. But new LifeLock with Norton Security provides more detection and more protection against cyber threats. Go to LifeLock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock and use promo code SAVAGE for an additional 10% off your first year. Plus, you get a $25 Amazon gift card with annual enrollment. That's LifeLock.com, promo code SAVAGE for sunspots and age spots. Well, listen to Renee from Boulder, Colorado, raving about the brand-new Genucel Sun Spot Corrector. She says, I love the Genucel Sun Spot Corrector. It is my go-to product every day. Watch your sunspots, age spots, and even red inflamed patches vanish right before your very eyes. And just like Renee, if you click or call right now, you'll get the Genucel Sun Spot Corrector absolutely free just for trying Genucel for bags and puffiness. Watch those stubborn sunspots vanish now before you get busy with the holidays and those bags and puffiness gone. And for results in less than 12 hours, the Genucel Immediate Effects is also yours free. You heard me, free again. Go to Genucel.com now or call 1-800-SKIN-891, 800-SKIN-891. When you order this week, you'll receive Chamonix's luxury microdermabrasion for instantly radiant baby soft skin. Order now and shipping is also free. Call 800-SKIN-891 or go to Genucel.com. You heard me right. That's 800-SKIN-891 or Genucel.com. I'm Michael Savage, and you're listening to Talk 1398.7. you're taking your car in for an oil change and they say, uh-oh, sensor is out, $1,000. Wait, no, your pistons are shot, $4,000. That's why I say you should get vehicle protection of the kind that will protect you. So those surprises, well, they'll let you down later. Look, if your car breaks down after the manufacturer's warranty, you could be out of pocket thousands of dollars. I told you how much it costs. But CarShield makes the process of fixing your car for a covered repair very easy. You can pick your own mechanic or the dealer, your choice. They give you roadside assistance, rental car while yours being fixed for free, part of the deal. So if your car has 5,000 or 150,000 miles, CarShield administrators will help you. They paid out close to $2 billion in claims. They're ready to help you. What I want you to do is get covered by the ultimate extended vehicle protection. Go to 1-800-CAR-6100. That's 800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE. Or carshield.com, code SAVAGE to save 10%. That's carshield.com, code SAVAGE, or call 800-CAR-6100 and mention code SAVAGE. A deductible may apply. I'm getting lots of emails now about that great guest we just had. The women particularly are saying she was really great. Yeah, well, let me tell you, you're not going to find people like that too often with this kind of expertise. I'm sure she'll be called by tonight by my student on Fox News. His producers listen to the show religiously, and my student then will pick her up, which is good. And many women are saying, great guest expert today, great your show. Great show, great show, great show. And many of you know what is going on, and you can look right through this. You're seeing exactly what the Democrats are doing. They're castrating someone in public along the lines of Tawana Brawley. It doesn't matter whether he actually did these things. What matters is that they're smearing him. And how anyone listening to the show who has a husband or a brother or a cousin, but most particularly you left-wing liberal women, God bless you, I want you to look in your little boy's eyes tonight when you put him to sleep. Your little 5-year-old, your 8-year-old, your 10-year-old, and I want you to ask yourself, what life he is likely to be leading in this nation if we let this kind of witch hunt metastasize into the cancer that it already is. We must use chemotherapy on this cancer. We must cauterize this cancer. We must poison this cancer before it spreads any further. And that means using the most toxic chemicals that we have in our armamentarium, which is what I've been using here. And if that chemical includes harsh speech, so be it, because everyone knows that good medicine is sometimes strong medicine, and sometimes strong medicine is the only medicine, and sometimes sugarcoating strong medicine weakens that medicine, and that's what you got today in the Savage Nation. Harsh, strong medicine for an hysteria that will destroy all of us, liberals alike. Stop mass hysteria before it ruins your son's life. You have to understand this is actually a fight for the survival of the human species. Right now it's about Kavanaugh versus some Dr. Ford. But it goes way beyond Dr. Ford and her repressed memories allegedly coming back to her all of a sudden. Now, again, as I said in the last hour, he is a U.S. district judge. He was appointed by Bush. They held it up for 3 years. The very same vermin rats who are doing it now, there they were again. The same vermin rat, Turban Durbin, who represents the largest Muslim district in the United States of America. That's right. Never forget that. Very important to know which side he's on. He's been playing for the other team a long time. I've been on to Turban Durbin ever since he called our Marines in Haditha Nazis and fascists. Never forget that I know who this guy is. Yet the same rat playing for the other team, Turban Durbin, tried to tie up Kavanaugh when he was appointed to the district judgeship by Bush. For 3 years, he blocked him. And here he is again saying, I believe in Dr. Ford, and I know this guy is basically a rapist. Here he is again, and yet the same people who put him in power keep him in power. So you have a war going on right now, and it's a war that will affect you, even if you are a liberal. And here's what I'm trying to get across. We know the conservatives are on Kavanaugh's side. It's broken down along party lines. My appeal today are to women, especially the Republican women, the educated women who voted for Trump sort of at the last minute. I'm using sort of. Because you have to think about your brothers, your cousins, your uncles, your boys, and what this will do to them in the future. It will you're allowing them to be destroyed by a word with no court, no trial, no evidence, no ability to face your accuser. We're now moving into 1,000 years of darkness. That's what this Kavanaugh trial is coming down to. It ties so horribly into Stop Mass Hysteria, America's Insanity from the Salem witch trials to the Trump witch hunt, which will be out in a few weeks. And by the way, Monday is a big day for me. I hope I'm going to be here. I mean, it's up to God whether I'm here or not, but I assume he'll let me be here. But Monday, I'm going to make a huge announcement that I believe will set shockwaves across the radio landscape. I can't say any more. I'm not allowed to say any more, nor do I want to. I don't want to preempt the announcement in the industry. But a huge announcement is coming from my lips to your ears on through the speakers on Monday. You're going to want to be here. Now, the Kavanaugh hearing, or whatever they're going to call it, the Scopes monkey trial wouldn't have been bigger than this one. This will be bigger than the Scopes monkey trial whenever she finally appears. I guarantee they'll have a truckload of tissues, water for her, a gallery of pink-hatted lunatics allowed in the gallery instead of locking them out. It's going to be one of the greatest circuses since I was 5 years old and went to Ringling Brothers in New York. Maybe better than the freak show in the back room, given the pink hats in the back of the room and they're screaming. They'll have to be dragged out, screaming. You're getting ready for it all, right? Especially with that feeble old man Grassley in charge. How is he still sitting there, Grassley? He confuses a glass of water for a gavel sometimes. But, okay, that's what the Republican Party has become. They're like the Whigs. And I don't mean the kind you put on your head. I mean the WHIGS variety. So here we are in hour number 3. Many of you want me to post the Dr. Loftus interview on michaelsavage.com, and I will do so later in the evening. You can look for it tonight and listen to it at your leisure, because everyone liked her, because she was kind of she was fair. She said maybe it did happen. Maybe she's confusing it with someone else. She did say that. And she's an expert witness in many trials and a real psychologist or psychiatrist, I guess, as opposed to one from a made-up university. Palo Alto University, to me, is a made-up school. That's like a mail-order degree as far as I'm concerned. If you went to Palo Alto University, that's fine. But somehow it's a little suspicious that it's in Palo Alto to confuse people with Stanford. It's like the old Lenny Bruce joke where the guy, makes it in Hollywood and he's got the first stage of getting on the ladder of success. He buys a little house adjacent to Beverly Hills. It's not in Beverly Hills. It's close to Beverly Hills. It's almost Beverly Hills. It's not exactly in Beverly Hills. It's close. It's near. That's what the Palo Alto University is. It's close to Stanford University. So what am I making? Credentials are everything. That's all. And if you look at that woman's studies, Dr. Ford's studies, I did look at her studies and publications because they're very telling. And what I discovered in looking at her studies is that she's tied into the abortion racket. And the reason I say that, and I say it with some trepidation because people misinterpret what I mean by that, Kavanaugh accuser linked to the abortion pill manufacturer through her research I posted 22 hours ago. Now, what does that have to do with anything? Well, she's published studies which try to prove that misoprost, whatever it's called, the abortion pill, the day after the RU20 thing, is that, what's it called? RU something or other. RU 486, right. She tries to show it's useful for treating depression. So what does it have to do with this? It means that if you look into the funding, you'll find that whether it was direct or indirect, the manufacturer of this abortion pill, the day after pill, is funding the research. What does that have to do with the whole attack on Kavanaugh? I want you to look at the big picture. Step back, hydrate, take a deep breath, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, take a big glass of water. Now, who is it who opposes Kavanaugh more than any? The abortion industry. Who are some of the biggest recipients of abortion money? Planned Parenthood money. Barbara Boxer for her whole life, Planned Parenthood. If you look into donations from Planned Parenthood, meaning planned infanticide, you'll see that the biggest mouths against Kavanaugh are funded by them. And then if you make that connection to the Kavanaugh accuser, Dr. Plymouth, or Dr. Ford, or Dr. Chevy, I keep forgetting her name. I never heard of her till the other day, so we'll call her Dr. Carr. Dr. Carr is part and parcel of that connection to the abortion industry. And they're the ones who most oppose Kavanaugh. Now, why do they oppose Kavanaugh? Roe v. Wade, Roe v. Wade, Roe v. Wade. Their most hysterical fear is that any Republican, by the way, any Republican, it wouldn't matter who it is, if they put Jesus, well, especially Jesus, sorry, Moses, forget it. If they put Abraham up, Muhammad, any one of them, they would scream the same thing. They call him every name under the sun. Why? One, he's a man, and two, he's just liable to overturn Roe v. Wade. And there goes the abortion racket. There goes the retirement fund of retired congresswomen, retired senators. There go those vacations in Cabo. There goes the second home in Tahoe. There goes the grandchild's orthodonture bill. And so that's how these things work. This is the Savage Nation. If you care to comment, I'm sorry to hear it because it means you're agitated. And the last thing I want you to do is feel agitated. I haven't had one caller yet on the show that I know. I had two great guests. But let me take one quick call because I have very little time right now on the show. Are there any women out there who are raising their boys in a different way as a result of the mass hysteria that we're living through right now? Well, Tim on KSFO has a story. Tim, could you make it pretty brief, please?
Yeah, my ex-wife accused me of molesting my daughters when they were 5 and 6, 18 years ago. And it was done in front of witnesses and everything, and it drug out 6 years. I lost their college fund.
She did this to you. She did this to you during a divorce proceeding.
Exactly. I just bought a condominium in California, and
okay. Well, how long ago did she accuse you? Were going through a divorce. How long ago?
March 11th, 2001.
So she called. So during this divorce proceeding, she said you molested your daughters.
Yes, and I was arrested by the FBI.
Wait, hold on. How long before did she say you did that horrible act?
My daughters were 4 and 5. She just.
Right, that's a horrible thing she did to you. No doubt her lawyer told her to do it in order to destroy you. Did you go to jail?
I went to jail. Yes, they let me out, but I was in for like 9 days in Los Angeles County because of I had speeding tickets and stuff.
Well, how'd you get out of this false accusation?
5 years in the department. What is it? The Department of Child and Services.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles County.
Did they finally dismiss the charges against you?
As far as I know, they've been dismissed, but my name is on the DOJ.
Oh my God! So you're known as a sexual predator. Do your daughters speak to you?
They moved to Arizona. I moved out to Arizona. I lost my house in 2008.
So your wife destroyed everything, in other words, in order to destroy you.
Basically, yeah.
Wow, she must have been mad at you.
Yeah, she was.
Wow. Well, I won't go into what that was about because that's your business, but that's a horrible story. I don't think you're alone, my friend, in these kinds of cases. And I think this is bringing up a lot of memories of these kind of things, this Dr. Ford and her accusations against Kavanaugh. But I mean, as a piece of evidence, let me present it in another way, again and again and again. He is a U.S. district judge. He's not an unknown quantity. He went through hearings. Where was Dr. Ford when he went through his hearings to become a U.S. district judge? Nowhere to be heard? Sounds awfully strange to me. And that's because he had no direct threat. He was of no direct threat at that time to Roe v. Wade. Do you understand what's involved here? It's about the billions of dollars that is made by the abortionists in the United States of America, the drugs, the killing the babies, the baby body part sales. As ugly as this sounds to you, never forget what this attack on Kavanaugh, these vicious, slimy attacks by Schumer, Durbin, Schiff, the same group that is trying to put Donald Trump in jail is trying to put Mr. Kavanaugh in hell. Back in a minute on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or Swiss America. This morning, I want to know what you think of it. Kavanaugh versus the Rad Femmes. Want to see what they plan for men? read Xenon, Ray Bradbury would like it. Xenon is a little novella or booklet that I published a while ago that's available on Kindle. And I'm going to read you 3 paragraphs if it's not too long for you to listen. I realize your mind is wandering already, and all you want to hear about is the latest dirt on the woman accusing Kavanaugh, but I'm not going there right now. So here's what Xenon is about. It's a science fiction novel about the future world state, an anti-utopian new world run by militant FSSs who castrate males at birth. Castrate males at birth? You mean they're trying to castrate Kavanaugh now? Yeah, because they missed them at birth. Assign them life mates who are transsexual, keeping the unclipped natural women for the state security forces, SSF, to assist the women in charge, WIC. State mind-bogglers, SMs, delete memories, and secretly use state gas stores of the noble gases to remolecularize their minds, argon, freon, helium, krypton, neon, radon, and xenon. Envisioned and written in the early 1980s, this prophetic fantasy forecast is Michael Savage, a semi-serious alum of a nightmarish future. In the new world, there are no natural free people. This SF adventure is considered a masterpiece of wit and dark humor that accurately predicted the direction of the femme-dominated Stalinist states emerging in former Western democracies. Let me read the last line for those of you who are too dense to even follow what I just said. This science fiction adventure is considered a masterpiece of wit and dark humor that accurately predicted the direction of the femme-dominated Stalinist states emerging in former Western democracies. Now, I wrote Xenon in 1983, 84, 85, 86. I held it for publication until last year. I thought it was just not ready. Well, today it's more ready than ever because the rad femmes are castrating Kavanaugh publicly. We know what they're doing here. They're castrating him no matter what comes out of these hearings next week. If the rad femme lawyer who represents the accuser does let her speak, Kavanaugh has already been tainted by the accusation. This is the new Stalinist state I was talking about. Now, if this is the world you want to live in, you can count me out. N'importe où dehors du monde is the way it was written in French for those of you who speak French. Doesn't matter where, anywhere out of this world. That's how I feel today. Anywhere out of this world would be better than living in America today under the rad femmes who have stolen academia, stolen the law, stolen the media, stolen the dialogue, stolen the monologue, and what is left for them to steal? Your freedom and your very maleness. That's the last few areas they've not yet gotten, but they will get to it eventually. They're crucifying Kavanaugh. They're crucifying him even though he was an adolescent, meaning not of age, when this alleged incident, even if it occurred, meaning he was 17, she was, 15, 14? The question to you is, and I'll repeat it again and again and again until you finally get it, the very left wing that says when a youth, they always call them youths or teens. You know who I'm talking about, right? The youths or teens. When the youths or teens actually commit a crime, they are excused from this crime because they're only youths or teens. And the cockamamie liberal lawyers from New York's NYU or Harvard come out and say, this poor youth, his brain is not fully developed. He's an adolescent. And the adolescent brain is not fully developed. So you can't hold him as an adult. He's a youth. And as you well know, the youth brain is not a fully developed brain. So doesn't that apply to Kavanaugh? Maybe he didn't have a fully developed brain. As you well know, boys 17 don't really have a brain. They're driven by something else. It is the Savage Nation. We're heading toward 1,000 years of darkness if this is not stopped. You know, we all expected when Hitler came back, he'd come back marching with his cohorts with the Nazi symbols and the German music. Hitler's back in many different forms. There are hydra heads of Hitler, meaning fascism, totalitarianism, Stalinism, Hitlerism, whatever you want to call it. Whichever ism you want to apply it to, it's the same form of control of people through lies and through intimidation tactics. And that's what we're witnessing now. Kavanaugh versus the rad femmes. You think because a woman or a man has a law degree that they're honest? You think the law is the truth? You think the law isn't used to coerce people every single minute of the day? You think people's lives aren't ruined by lawyers who are lying in court and destroying them? Many of you listening to the show have had your lives turned upside down by the legal system, which works only for the powerful and the rich. It rarely works for anyone else. Trust me on that one. And so you say, well, Kavanaugh is a powerful rich man, but what is he facing? He's facing an impossible situation. I told you yesterday, it's the equivalent of, did you stop beating your wife? The old story, the old canard. How can you answer that one? Did you stop beating your wife, Mr. Kavanaugh? Well, no, I never beat my wife. Oh, so you did stop beating your wife. And he says, no, I stopped. I just said I never beat my wife. Well, I asked you, did you stop beating your wife? He said, well, I never. So you're denying you beat your wife? That's what the lawyer for this accuser, this party girl from the rich high school there, this party, if she was a party girl, they'll turn her into some Vestal perfect person. I'm not saying it's wrong to be a party girl, but that's what she was by all estimates. She worked in a bar, she drank a lot. Look at the stories that are coming out. That's not fair game to bring up her past? Oh, no, you can't bring up her past. Now, you can't bring up her past. Cannot say anything about her. Doesn't deny the fact. You can bring up her past. No, you can't in the court of law anymore. That's because the lowest form of humanity has taken over the courts. What do you think? Because a person wears a black robe? Back in the 90s, I said the stench from the bench is making me clench. It was considered humorous at the time. There's not enough Martinizing on the planet to get the stench out of the black robes in the courts of America. To make it very guttural for you, maybe you'll understand what I'm saying. What is a judge? Tell me what a judge is, any judge, top, bottom, in, out. It's a man or a woman who went to law school and became a conniving politician and became a judge. That's all. They angled to become a judge. It was a political job. Does it make them better than us? No. Some are great, some are mediocre, some are terrible, some are criminal. So why do we trust the legal system to determine the truth? As a very smart lawyer once said to me, the chasm between the truth and justice, there is no justice in the courts, is what he said, first of all, or don't look to the law for justice, is the way the lawyer put it to me. They're two different things. The law and justice are two different things. A lawyer said that to me. And the law, he said, is not designed to seek the truth. By the way, he said that to me as well. The law is not designed to seek or find the truth, by the way. So who are you to believe here? And if you believe this party girl, then what does that imply for everyone in the United States of America starting tomorrow? It means your son, your brother, your husband, your son-in-law, your brother-in-law. It means any male in America can be falsely accused by anyone at any time and have their lives ruined without any chance of getting even or straightening out their name for that matter. So the law needs to be changed. The law needs to be changed so that if a person makes an accusation against a person and they can't prove it, they pay the penalty that the person they accused would have paid. How's that? Would that work for you? You accuse someone of a crime or of an act, and you go to court, and you cannot prove definitively that they did that, then you suffer the same consequences as the person you accused, and you pay all court fees. That's the only way to end this Stalinist witch hunt. Today against Kavanaugh, tomorrow against your son. What if your son is in high school today? What if you have a normal, healthy son who likes to play sports and likes girls? What would you tell him? Not to go near a girl? Isn't that exactly what the red femmes want? To destroy the family, to destroy man and woman, to destroy the sex drive of a man towards a woman? Isn't that the object here? You haven't been able to add up the pieces. I've been adding them up for a very long time. And that's why I wrote Xenon a very long time ago. It's a science fiction novel, of course. But liberal men are most at risk of having their lives destroyed by this witch hunt. Listen to what I just said. The libertines amongst us are the ones most vulnerable to false accusations, most vulnerable to have their lives destroyed. In 1998, I gave a very telling speech before the Commonwealth Club. I was the last conservative allowed to speak at the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco before it became a lockdown. There was a gentleman there who since died who was a conservative. So my speech was, during the Clinton years, the following. My speech in 1998 when Clinton was in power and the press was in his pocket, beware the government media complex. It's a seminally important speech. And if I gave that speech in 1998, beware the government media complex, well, beware the government media complex today. Isn't it embarrassing that the ousted head of Fox News, the man who was fired, Bill Not So Shiny Shine, is now the communications director for the president, and as a man who tries to be an independent, I have to call him as I see him, and I just did. And now on to the next topic. I'm going to go back to September 18th, and I'm going to read you 3 tweets from the week, and I'm going to tell you which one got the most response. Michael Savage said, Feinstein broke law and Senate ethics by withholding charges before hearings last week. Ask any lawyer about discovery rules. In terms of my Twitter responses, it was about 10 times higher than my normal responses. That's number one. The next one that I put up, well, the one that's up for 20 hours, is Kavanaugh accuser linked to the abortion pill manufacturer through her research. And many people are stupid. They don't even understand what that means. One ignoramus wrote, this has nothing to do with the case being probed currently. Stay focused, Michael. And I say ignoramus, it means she's tied to the abortion industry. The abortionists make millions off dead babies and their body parts. You have to literally hand and spoon feed people. They can't put 2 and 2 together. They don't know how to make an egg. They don't know how to make an idea, nothing. And I say another thing to another person. They don't understand what I'm trying to say. Then the next one is, why did Senator Crime Scene withhold the bombshell, why did Senator Crime Scene withhold this bombshell during the exhaustive hearings? A dirty trick of the slimy left. That's, of course, a reference to what she did. Now, the next tweet is why the accuser's high school yearbook was scrubbed. That got a normal number of responses. The next one from yesterday's show was youths who commit real crimes are just children with undeveloped brains, according to Lib Sykes. But the 17-year-old Kavanaugh was a full-blown adult. That was too complicated for most people on Twitter. I then put the next one up, which was even more complicated, and so the response rate went down. I wrote this, according to the Liberal Innocence Project funded by Soros, about 75% of convicted felons are innocent owing to faulty recall and the memory of witnesses. Does this Soros-funded science apply to a makeout session 36 years ago? Very low response because they didn't hear it from the so-called conservatives in the media who can't think themselves, by the way. All they can do is, let me stop right there. I don't want to make even more enemies than I already have. You know, my book, Stop Mass Hysteria, is so on target. America's Insanity from the Salem witch trials to the Trump witch hunt. It'll be out in just a few short weeks. You're going to learn so much by reading my book that no one else can teach you the way I did. I'm going to give you 3 quotes from that book that you must have. Here's Lenin, who was the architect in many ways as a communist revolutionary, who was the head of government of Soviet Russia from 1917 to 1924 and of the Soviet Union from 1922 to 1924. Here he is, the architect of evil, saying, the goal of socialism is communism. Lenin said that, not Michael Savage, but it's quoted in Stop Mass Hysteria. What else did Lenin say that you must know? A lie told often enough becomes the truth. That was Lenin. And here's another one for those of you who are into gun grabbing, you fools you. Lenin said, one man with a gun can control 100 men without one. All of you who want to make America gun-free. We know the truth. It's all in Stop Mass Hysteria because we're living through it. We are living through it. We're living through the nightmare all over again. And the symptom of it today is Kavanaugh. This is a symptom of the mass hysteria that we're living through. A symptom. And when you have a biased media, as we do today, where even so-called Fox News, which is allegedly conservative, blocks Michael Savage, perhaps the best-known conservative intellectual in the world, and they have left-wingers on, like this fake historian on Neil Cavuto's show. He's interviewing some historian named Doris Goodwin, who we well know is a left-wing fanatic who hates Trump. And here is this dummy, Neil Cavuto, on Fox News, interviewing her, and I'm banished from Fox News. So you say to yourself, why do you care? I care because you must understand that when I say there is media bias here, and you think that it's only ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, and MSNBC, you are mistaken. Fox News is an extension of the mainstream establishment media today. It wasn't always like this. It wasn't always like this. There was a time that it wasn't like this. And even when I wasn't on the show, it was far more conservative than it is today. It has moved so far that it looks like CNN of just a few years ago. And it's going to get even more so as time goes on. So if you're an independent, as I am, it's very hard to survive in the sea of lies. And you know what I have going for me? I have two things going for me, which is why you listen to me. One, I have a desire to tell you the truth the best I can. You'll have to be the judge of that. And number two, I've been blessed with great energy to this point in my life. That's something I have a little control over because of my lifestyle. And number three, I have to say there's an unknown quantity, and I would say somebody up there likes me. It's as simple as that. Because to think that I could survive and get this far in life